Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Neon Twilight on Nightlight Radio with Solaris BlueRaven. We are so delighted to be back on track, and we're looking forward to this evening because the topic of conversation is one that is not only titillating, but insightful and educational. And with that said, Solaris, welcome back to your show.
Well, thank you, Barbara. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Well, you know, we took a short break.
Yeah.
Every now and then the universe arranges for us to have a break, and I always look at those breaks as, okay, I needed this and I didn't schedule it for myself, so the universe took care of it for me. So always I come back from these kind of breaks with more insight, more ideas, more inspiration. So it has been an exciting time on all levels here. I know you were caring for furry friends, and that's really exciting in and of itself. But our topic tonight is EndTimes, and I'm really excited about it because so many people are talking about, oh my God, we're in EndTimes, the Antichrist is coming, and whatever and ever. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that, I mean, my goodness, every day is an end of one time and the beginning of another time. So what does EndTimes, what does that phrase elicit in you, and what does it mean to you?
Well, when I think of EndTimes, I think of religious indoctrination, to be honest. So I don't really resonate with the data. So for me, you're right, we're always going through a transitional cycle. It's kind of like the scarab that's being reborn from day to day, the rebirth that happens as the sun rises. So to me, it seems like we're always going through a transformational process, and you could call that an end and a beginning at the same time simultaneously. But I do see, what I have observed is that, yeah, people are stuck in fear. And with fear comes this whole process of thinking that, if they're reading the Bible, they're thinking this is the end and this is what's going to happen. And, of course, that's like a playbook. And what I also have noticed is that playbook can be utilized by areas who want to use it as a control program for the masses. So they can literally take that data and make it happen through manifestation, where it won't be a legitimate, end time, but something that's formulated. So that's another process that I look at.
Well, I think even biblically speaking, when they call it end times, they're not talking of the end of the world. And I think that in many people, many authors that I've had on the show have spoken of the different times, the different periods of time that we have gone through. And if you even look at the Bible, and if you take it literally, and first of all, I'm not trashing religion. I think religion religion of any form is an important thing for people, and it's important they have a spiritual/religious belief. That doesn't mean it's a church. It just means it's a spiritual religious belief. And if you look at the Bible, it says, in the beginning, and then it goes on to talk about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and then they got kicked out, and then, but the reality is that they weren't the first people on the planet. They were the first people in the garden. So that's referring to a concept as opposed to a physical reality. So that so that we, if you begin to look at the Bible as an allegory, then even when it says end times, it's the end of one time and the beginning of another. I mean, if we look at our lives, and I can only speak for me because I'm 78, so in my youth, the times were very different than they are today. So in many ways, this is the end time of a generation, but other generations are in there after my generation, and it is not the ending of their time. They're in the middle of their times or the beginning of their times, and so I look at all of this these are end times. The world's coming to an end. The Earth, depending on who you're talking to, is either 6,000 years old or millions of years old. So, it's been around for a while, and it's seen the beginning and end of lots of times. So, so when people are getting upset at this time frame, because it is definitely triggering a change for all of us. So in that aspect, it is an end time. So what do you do when you are present physically at a transfer or a turnover or an ascension into a new time? How do you handle that, letting go of the old and being open for the new? How does one deal with the transformation that comes at the end of one time and the beginning of another?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we do that naturally through the process itself. I mean, some of us do. We're walking more of a spiritual path, but when it comes down to it, it's just once again, it's a transformational metamorphosis in a sense of just moving on to the next frequency band. And in my opinion, the less the better. So traveling light, letting go of baggage, whether it's emotional, mental, physical. I know we've talked about that before, but anything that you're hung up with, and especially right now where everything's polarized, whether it's political or religious, this, that, and the other, that all needs to be resolved immediately. Life is too short in the illusion of living to waste time with that kind of thing. So you've got to move it to a higher field. So I would say for anybody, how do you let go of it? Just by will alone. You literally do the work and just say, I'm releasing all this by your own intent. And moving on to the next level, be prepared for a journey that you may not understand, but will be more than likely productive by the time you get there. So that's just my own take on it. I'm ready to kind of navigate in very big, vast networks of consciousness, and, I don't want any baggage.
Well, yeah, that's the important thing, I think, with everything that has gone on. The world has, I've never, because of the communication we have, because of the fact that we are so interconnected because of the internet and everything else, we're very aware of what's going on in all different parts of the world, so that we have an awareness that the pandemic especially was something the entire world experienced. So it is triggering a change in all of our lives, whether it's behavior, whether it's awareness, whether it's consciousness, whether it's all or none. But it was a time out. It was almost as though, okay, things are going to shift and change. You need to be ready for the changes. It's not that the world's going to blow up, because I'm pretty sure the Earth is going to, the Earth will survive humanity. So, and actually, to be honest with you, I read an article not too far in the past that said that they had discovered, when analyzing DNA, that at a certain point of time, in a number of years, and I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. The DNA the human DNA does mutate and change, and they followed it back to when the first DNA, when it was pure and it was original, and they found that human DNA is older than the planet, which infers that humanity Homo sapiens, humans, came from somewhere else onto this planet millions of years ago.
Right. And in my opinion, once again, they're not human. But yeah, I mean, that's, well, for beings like us, we know that language. We know that that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll call them Homo sapiens. But yeah, that our ancestors did not originate on this planet. Now that screams change with the Bible, but you know, it seems as though there is a juggling between science and between spiritual information, and at some point in time they're going to come closer and closer and closer together. And when they do blend and agree with each other, then we really are in a change time frame, which is going to be fabulous. But we're not there yet. So in these times of shift and change, it's, you know, when our focus is on living as well as we can with what we have, it's important to really be focusing not only on the physicality, because of course we have to eat, sleep, and stay out of the weather, but there's also our approach to our life and how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. And I think this time out was really important for us. We were given 2 years for sure to take a look at our lives and see if there were changes we needed needed is a better word, because change is, for some, is not very comfortable, but shifting and changing focus helps us to understand our purpose here on the planet. You know, we're here, we're spirits on a human journey, so that there's a purpose to our humanity and there's a purpose to what we're going through, and it's important that we try to understand what we have asked for as far as lessons that we're going to, that we ask to have presented to us. A great movie to look at is, it's about a man, a congressman that's asked to build an ark, something immortal or eternal. Anyhow, in it, one of the statements was people pray and ask for things, and they expect the thing to be dropped in their lap, when in reality a situation is presented to them that they can achieve that wish that they've asked for. But they have to work for it. They have to recognize that you have to earn these things. You're not, nobody's going to lay it on your front door and say, you know, surprise, here's your relationship, surprise, here's all the money you're looking for. But the opportunity to earn it, to grow it, to achieve it ourselves is given to us. So it's something almighty. Evan Almighty, it was a great movie. It was very funny.
Bruce Almighty? It wasn't Bruce Almighty.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. I'll find out.
Yeah, no, it was Ethan, I forget. It's something almighty. Now that's going to
Okay, is it a new film?
No, it's an old one. It's a really, really old one.
I'll try to find it.
Something almighty.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, you have to work for what you want. You have to manifest it. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can wish out a star the rest of your life, but you have to set the energy in motion. And I totally agree with that. Although there are obstacles at some point, and I find that when you progress on a very high level, whether it's divinity or science, whatever it is that you're doing to make a breakthrough, sometimes there are adversaries that show up to sabotage. And I don't think that's by universal law or cosmic law. I think it's more just about, you know, greed and people in the illusion of this world trying to contain others from their evolutionary, you know, configuration. That's what I've noticed for my own projects, my own work, and my own, you know, information. So it does happen.
Yeah, it does. I think it started Steve Carell. It's something almighty.
Well, I'll have to look it up. Just on a side note, my sister saw the new Elvis film. She says it's fabulous. So if you're an Elvis Presley fan, I guess that movie is really, really good. And she said the actor did a phenomenal job channeling his energy, I guess. So heads up. I'm not real big on all that, but I do like Elvis.
I saw an interview with the guy that played Elvis, and it was definitely it looked really good.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. That was a side note. Not to throw us off track, but
it's really funny. No, this is something almighty. Evan, I think it's Evan Almighty.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that one. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Check it out.
I think it's Evan. No, watch. The only whatever.
You can always Google it.
Yes, it's Evan Almighty. It came out in 2007.
Okay.
Charming movie, absolutely hysterical, and the messages that you get from it are absolutely phenomenal. And basically, if you want change in your life, random acts of kindness are the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was, you would love this because it has animals all over the place. It's really hysterical. Anyhow, I want to get back to End Times because so many people are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it's not necessary. We're coming to the end of a time, and I can certainly see it. I know when I was young, my sister and I in the summertime would go out on our bicycles, and my mother would say, "Come back when the streetlights go on." My grandchildren today, no way in heck. I mean, they are totally always supervised because of the dangers that are out there now.
Right.
I don't recall riots of any sort when I was younger, the way that there are riots today. But communication is different too. When I was really young, this totally dates me. When I was really young, there was no television. So we have access to information with the internet and television that other generations never had, but at the same time, it's not censored. The lies are coming through sometimes louder than the truth. So you have to learn discernment. So that the times are demanding us to develop and achieve a greater sense of discernment about ourselves, our lives, our world. And I don't think people understand that because is it end times? Sure it is. It's end times. Tomorrow will be a new time, but it's not the biblical end times. It's not Jesus is coming on a white horse from the sky times. I think the Bible itself is telling us a story of evolution and transformation and all sorts of things, but it's not. It has a message beneath a message beneath a message, and in some place Jesus says, "For those with ears to hear and eyes to see," or just ears to hear, I think. But it's sort of like it's not. Some people take the literal translation and they say this is exactly how it's going to happen. And then there are others that are looking beneath the surface and saying, what does this mean? And I would like for people to try to get to that stage where they understand that it's telling you that there's something coming. It's telling you a change is coming. But in reality, that divine energy is in all of us, so maybe the second coming is the awakening of a spiritual energy within each individual.
Right. Yeah, cosmic Christ or cosmic, Christ consciousness. I mean, it's the same thing with DNA activation and spirituality. Yeah. I mean, that sounds more like the formula. We've talked about this before, how the Bible has been censored. A lot of it edited, censored to accommodate a particular group of people to control. So you have to look at those and factor that in to some degree. But I would say just follow your radar, follow your psychic radar and your gnosis. And, you were talking about technologies of the day, and we've discussed that before, but sometimes there's an interference pattern associated with that. And the radar system, the internal mechanisms connected to our radar system gets sabotaged or gets off track, and then people get derailed into the drama bubbles and where there's nothing but disinformation campaigns running. So, it becomes kind of sketchy. And at that point, in my opinion, I think you should just hone in on the stars and the consciousness of what's really happening on a higher level. Maybe it's harder for some people, but I find that that's the envelope that we're all encompassing to some degree, even subconsciously.
Yeah, I read something of late, and I wish I could be more specific because when you're reading a book a week, they kind of all blend together eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And what the latest books that I've been reading have been talking about the fact that the Bible itself was written for the Hebrews and the early Christians, and it was from their perspective as to their reality at that time. Here we are 2,000 years later, and the times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, absolutely.
The purity that's in the teaching is priceless. But the story that they weave around the teachings only applies to the Hebrews. And it's really funny because you know how sometimes you think of you think about something and you realize that, man alive, I was wrong. I mean, the Hebrews became the Jews, and the Jews became the religion. But there were Hebrews first, and they weren't Jewish. They were Hebrews. So it took me a while to wrap my head around. This was a culture that created a religion that became one of the oldest. But they, the two weren't the same. They were, the Hebrew was a group of people, and then the Hebrews became the Jews with Moses and all of those guys, but they weren't Jews originally. They were Hebrews who worshipped all of the gods and goddesses of the countries that they were in when they were, bands of wandering whatevers. So I don't know where in my head I got the fact that, Adam and Eve were Jewish. But
I always look at it as a metaphor. Even the concept of them being biological beings, I've always looked at it on a different, like a metaphor level, symbolism behind it all. What does it really represent? And I think that it's true. There's this. It doesn't fit in the puzzle of today. So there is an aspect that you're talking about pure energy and a pure way of looking at things through the doctrines. But when you come down to what's really happening here, it's outdated. It's very outdated. And it's just not a drivable vehicle right now when it comes down to that. But mystery school teachings, in my opinion, are. So I think that's where the sequencing comes in, where we navigate to higher realms. We talked about the halls of Amente, and that's so beautiful, and the way we move through consciousness through mystical teachings. And that, to me, is the biggest growth. I didn't start growing and evolving until I started diving into mystical alchemy and started doing the spiritual work, and then things changed. I mean, you can sit in any type of a church all the rest of your life, and you'll get the same old, play of information. But when it comes down to your own process and spiritual growth, to me, I find that that's where you really start to take off as an evolutionary being. So I don't know if that really answers any questions, but that's what I see here, and I think that's what is necessary. And we've lost that along the way in a sense of, not we, but what's going on with the masses right now. I think they're kind of derailed. They're not interested in learning that. They're not interested in following higher consciousness. They're too busy on TikTok doing, stupid little skits and this, that, and the other, where they could be doing something more productive. So,
Well, and in a way, technology is preventing people from becoming more spiritual, and yet it's also a great way to impact and to impart spiritual philosophies out there as well. So it's a double-edged sword, and it depends on where you're going to look. Are you going to look for spiritual aspects and spiritual philosophies, or are you going to look for cute cats, attacking computers? I mean, frankly, I look at those videos on occasion myself. So, but it's a distraction, and it takes you away from the reality of the purpose of this lifetime. And this lifetime is to be experiential. And if you are not being experiential within your own life, you'll just come back again. It's okay. We have free will. But
I'm not coming back here. We talked about that, but yeah, no, I get it. But I do think that people should rely on an afterlife like that. Say, I'll just reincarnate and I'll get it right the next time. I think that's very negligent. I think they should do the best they can to make sure they get it all taken care of while they're here. Life is too short, and to say I'm going to delegate to my next life, and the illusion of, they may not get one here or anywhere for that, just because of the attitude. So I would say point blank, try to get it as best you can, fine-tune your life as best you can, and appreciate it as best you can. But, the science and technology fusion is a big deal insofar as fusion with spirituality. And I find that mysticism is like that naturally. When we look at the ancient teachings, they really were connected to higher alchemy and also through the spirit and consciousness. So both of those mechanical driving forces, in my opinion, are part of the cosmic design to some degree. And there is a fusion happening. It's just about gatekeepers and who's delivering the information to the masses and how much are they going to get out of it, because there's so much advanced technology that hasn't even been observed by this collective of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, because of the technology and everything that's out there, we have come away from, if you look at, if you go way, 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 way back, I think the Milky Way used to be called the Pathway of Souls, and that the early peoples, their philosophy was they didn't have a religion, but they had a spiritual way of living, and that was a richer type of culture than the kind of culture we have today. I think today's many people, not all, but many people are very, they're superficial. They aren't looking into the greater depths of things. They aren't recognizing the fact that our actions, our words, our thoughts, the manner in which we approach our reality is our religion, and we become the temple of the spirit we carry within. And while I think organized religion can do great things in many ways in many places, I haven't yet found a church that answered that call for me, so that I practice my philosophy every day, and that's how I worship, by how I address other people, the things I do within my life, how I approach to understanding situations and things like that. That is my spiritual practice. And it's not done just on Sunday. It's done every day. It's done with every breath. It's how can I better myself and help others at the same time. And I think that's the right way to look at it. Better myself, and then in bettering myself, I automatically help the people around me.
Yeah, the energy is a transfer, osmosis. Yeah.
Yeah,
it does work.
I think it does, and you don't have to. While there are lots of practices around to help you evolve and understand and grow, and certainly research, especially with the internet, is phenomenal. But at the same time, having knowledge doesn't make it wisdom. It becomes wisdom when you start to practice the knowledge that you carry within.
Yeah, that's how you apply it. No doubt about that.
Yeah. And so it's a matter of, take all the classes you want, get all the certificates you want, do whatever it is that's important for you, but understand that unless you take that and put it into practice, it's worthless. I mean,
yeah, it's just like anything else. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I had a friend once who saw, I gave a lot of stuff away. I did readings for free because it was fun, and he said, you just give so much away, you aren't able to, support yourself with it. And I said, no, I have a job for that, and I can give this away because it's fun for me, and it does help other people. And he saw me at one event that I went to. He found that people were giving me gifts. At the end, it was a week-long spiritual retreat type thing, and he saw me getting all sorts of amazing gifts and things like that. And he said, "Why'd they give it to you?" And I said, "I guess they appreciated, the free reading they got, or whatever, or the insight, or what." And so he said, "So you give without expectation, and you get a ton of stuff." I said, "Yeah, but I don't give in anticipation of stuff. I give because I enjoy the giving." And not too long afterward, he was a photographer, and he gave a photograph away, and it was framed. It was really very pretty. And 3 weeks later, he said, your philosophy doesn't work. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I gave that expensive photograph away, and I got nothing back in return. And I said, but you expected something back in return. And he said, yeah, well, it worked for you. I said, I didn't expect anything back. And he said, I have trouble with that. And I said, well, then don't go giving any more stuff away because you're not going to get anything back.
Well, sometimes when you're doing the spiritual work, too, people do a trade, and they'll give you, like, incense or gifts. I mean, that's almost like the protocol for spiritual teachers. If you have anybody, like whoever it is, who's doing a class or offering something for free, usually the protocol, even if you're not paying financially, would be a gift, like anything from smudge sticks to incense. And that's protocol for spirituality, in my opinion. So maybe the idea behind what he was doing is it's not spiritual practicing. In other words, it's just something material. So there is a difference on that level, so maybe that's why that didn't work out the way you wanted it to. But, yeah, I mean, I've had that, too, in the past, where you just do something for someone and they bring you something, if they can't afford anything or whatever, they bring gifts, spiritual gifts to the teachers.
Well, yeah.
Or facilitating.
And, I am always open to barter, and I can remember one time I bartered a mandala, and they gave me some huge crystals and some. I mean, it was amazing, and I looked at them and I said, this is not adequate. I mean, you've given me much more than I've given you, and they said, well, we feel the same way. We feel you gave us much more than we gave you, and I said, well, then we're both winners. We'll just walk away from that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important for people to understand that the greatest gift they can give is their time and their energy. It has nothing to do with a physical anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's new times, and I wish people could understand that if you have an end time, you have a beginning time, and that's very exciting. So, in anticipation of coming into the new age or the new time, maybe sitting back and saying, okay, what do I need to address? What do I need to do? I have stuff last night I couldn't sleep, so I made a list of things that I want to write, that I want to get done before the new times start. And it's almost in my head and heart, I'm saying, okay, if I get these first 5 things done, then new times can start.
Mm-hmm.
So that and everybody will move into their new times in their own time, in their own way, in their own manner. I mean, you can't say, well, Barbara made a list, so I'll make a list, and then I'll achieve the first 5, 6 things and see if I'm in new times. It has to be something that is unique unto yourself. A list may be appropriate, or I'm going to work on something until it's no longer with me, and once I know it's no longer with me, then I can move on. There's an Indian technique which is really kind of cool. It's a friend of mine who happens to be of an Indian dot Indian persuasion. She ties when she's angry with someone, and she just doesn't know what to do with that anger. She ties a cotton red string around her wrist, and as long as that cotton red string is there, she's still holding on. But when that red string wears away and falls off, her anger is gone. And so it's a signal for her that, okay, I have let go of that anger. And it works for her beautifully. And, that has to do with either with a situation or a person. But I think you have to believe in the principle first, and then it works for you. If you don't believe in the principle, then you could have, an armload of red strings and never go anywhere. But
right, yeah, it's really about the art of the manifestation to some degree.
Yeah,
how you channel that
point,
frustration or whatever it is. Go ahead.
At one point, she came up to me and she had this red string around her wrist, and she said, "I don't think it's ever going away." And I looked. I said, "It's silk. It probably won't. You should have used cotton." So.
But also waiting on something like a Band-Aid too. I mean, if she's I don't know what she is. As a teacher, you move things quickly. Okay, if you're angry, you take responsibility for it, and you move the energy, you channel the energy, whether it's through working out, training, breath work, whatever it is. I mean, I get it, whatever works for you, but at the same time, you're relying on that as some kind of a, once again, like the tulpa thing where you're creating a manifestation, you're creating some kind of a living design in connection to an extension of your anger. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. That's just me. I wouldn't do it. But if it works for them, fine. But, once again, they're waiting and waiting on for something to fall off when, in fact, take responsibility for your mental body and your emotional body and move the energy yourself. Don't wait for a little string to fall off your wrist. That's my point.
Absolutely. If you're in a time and place where you can work with energy, then that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She was not in that particular place within herself at that time. I would hope that as time wore on, she understood the energetic of it and could move past it. But for that moment, it was really important for her, and it was a symbol that she's working on it. It's getting ragged, and okay, I feel like I can let go now. And it was just it was her process. Didn't work for everybody. Didn't work on everybody. Certainly, if you're an energy worker, then take care of it, let it go, and move on. But
don't hold into things. I mean, hold on to stuff until it rots off your body. Forget it. That's just me. I work fast forward anyway.
Well,
I'm like, boom, let's get it done. Poof, it's done.
you will address it. You will move it out. But you can work with energy.
Yeah.
And, learning how to work with energy is certainly a great idea because it does help to alleviate that kind of stuff. It does, at some point you get to a place where you can recognize a lesson that is evolving in front of your eyes and, surrender into the energy that is going on so that you can move through it and move beyond it. And that is a far less painful way of dealing with anything because then you're aware that you're letting go of something and you're feeling better and better and better and better. And it works. But again, energy work is very different from, this was somebody who had never been into metaphysics or understood any of it, and certainly I would have sent her for Reiki and things like that. But, her idea was the red string, and it worked for her. It was something
from whatever works for you,
her
basically.
Grandmother.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, move through it, work through it, get rid of it. And,
well, at that point, I would say she probably needs a teacher too. And also when you're looking at energy work in general, it's really consciousness work. It really is. So energy, it takes on the form of higher consciousness, which really is the energetic descending down into the body, into the vortex of the crown and everything else that reconfigures your life through that field of energy. So I think it's really work in the field is what and I mean, I look at energy work in the terminology, and I just think it's changed quite a bit on that level, but it's that's what I see it as anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you had talked to me about energy 40 years ago, I would have kind of given you a blank stare. And now I'm right there with you. But, it takes time. It takes learning. It takes growing. And, for those who are listening, for those who aren't familiar with energy work and stuff like that, it's something to research. It's important to know. It's important to understand your own energetic fields and how you can work with them and help to speed them up and help to balance them. It's a very exciting process. And because we are, I mean, I kind of look at the fact that I do believe we are in the beginning of new times. Are they going to be better? Maybe in some ways yes, in some ways no. I mean, certainly our life situation always provides us with challenges, and that's why we're here. We're here to learn and to grow and to move. But I think we're coming into a time where I feel more today than ever before that we are moving into new times, and it's time for new thoughts, philosophies, and understandings. I used to say every 10 years I find in the last 40 years, maybe 50, I have changed my life radically. And this time I'm coming in a couple of years early. And it does feel as though if you understand that and everybody probably has, it's either a 7-year shift or a 10-year shift or a 12-year shift. Everybody will have a different shift. But if you look at your life, you'll notice that there are times when you just radically changed everything and you moved into a new direction. And the next 2 years for me are those transitional time frames. I'm kind of looking at, by the time I'm 80, I will have shifted tremendously, and when I'm 90, I'll do the same thing, and when I'm 100, I'll do the same thing, and when I'm 110, I'll do the same thing, and then 120, probably croak. But that again is another transition, but I'm giving myself the 120 years because what the hell? That's what the Bible says. But have you noticed that there is a rhythm that you have in your life on the planet where you change on a pretty regular basis? Major change, not cut your hair or dye your hair or stuff like that, but major change philosophically.
Well, for me, I would say that it's been a very big progression and evolutionary experience. Ever since 2004, when I went through all the technology and interface, it seems like things were fast forward as far as just moving to a different configuration of life. And from that point on, I was more than driven to write and to start getting involved in doing just more decoding of information. So I think I've always been doing that, to be honest with you. But what I have noticed is that this past year, I'm just moving fast forward into a whole different configuration of consciousness. And I find that it really is about departing with the old, saying goodbye, farewell to the linear and everything that is presented to us, whether it's a lesson of experience or whatever, and recycling into the full light universe. And then really just being solid in consciousness and solid into a new configuration, because we are moving into a different, what I call more of a 0 point. So all of the stuff that we are familiar with, even the technology of today, is going to be obsolete, in my opinion, in the next few years. And we're looking at a whole different ballpark of data. If things go the way I think they're going to go, I think they're going to be exposing a lot of beyond classified data and information to the masses, and even around down to extraterrestrial design. So we'll see where that goes. But I find that beings like us, we're very advanced, and without any arrogance, I say that. And it's like we're already home. We're already ascended into this full light harmonic. It's just about stepping up even further into it. So I guess I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, things are changing to such a degree that I know I have to go here, I have to move. It's not even having to. It's just like I'm ready to do this now. I'm ready to go do this, that, and the other. And I haven't had that for a long time. So those are the things that are coming into fruition for me right now.
Yeah, I have had periods of time where, people have said, what are you doing? And I actually would say, I'm waiting. It's not the right time. I'm waiting for the call. I'm waiting. I call it waiting for the call. I have found in my life that if I think I know where Spirit wants me to go and the pathway isn't open, I used to try to, get a machete out and clear my own pathway. And I have found that oftentimes my understanding that a new path was arriving was appropriate, but my purpose was to wait for the path to open instead of trying to hack it out myself, because I really, it's sort of like I have a friend who has a mother who has dementia, and dementia people every now and then give you such wonderful enlightenment in their fuzziness that it's unbelievable. At one point she said to her mother, "Where are you going?" And her mother said, "I don't know, but when I get there, I'll let you know." And
wow, that's nice.
Isn't that cool? And I thought, but that's what the spiritual pathway is. I don't know where I'm going, but I'll know when the pathway opens. I'll know when I get that call that says do this, or and so it's a matter of developing the patience to wait for the call and making sure it's not a wrong number.
Yeah, that's big.
But I love that statement from her mother. It just was so precious. It was like, that's what all of us, where all of us are. I don't know where I'm going, but when I get there, I'll let you know.
And sometimes they're not meant to know where they're going. I mean, in the sense that the other people who are asking or inquiring, it's almost like their own personal spiritual journey through the gateway, where maybe the children aren't supposed to know, or the daughters or the sons, that kind of thing.
Well, and not only that, but if you knew where you were going, what would the purpose of the trip be?
A vacation? No, I kid. But no, I get it. No, it's true. That's what people do. And they know they're going to their destination here and they go on vacation, right? But, yeah.
Yeah. But the reality here is if you know where you're going to go, I mean, there's no excitement. There's no challenge as to, the hurdles, the barriers, the whatever that come up. If you're presented with a situation or a difficulty and you don't know how to get through it, it's a wonderful challenge to your ingenuity, to your creativity, to everything that, and sometimes if you find yourself blocked, it may mean this isn't the direction you're supposed to go. If you've tried everything you can figure.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it could be either or. It could be that or it could be sabotage. It could be either or, in my opinion. Sometimes people stop when they're very close to doing something phenomenal not because of they didn't want to do it, but because something got in their way. And you can say that was done by maybe divine intervention or something else, but I find that they're adversaries. And to me, I think that's something to look out at or watch out for, even though we have, our own manufactured obstacles. But I do see that more and more as we progress as beings. That does happen. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
That old saying, they're very fully capable of snatching failure out of the jaws of success. Sometimes there's a fear of success. This will change my life forever. Do I really want this? Maybe I should sabotage it and just stick with the old that I know. And the cool thing is the new is always so much more exciting and challenging.
Agreed.
And
yeah.
And sometimes scary, but the door wouldn't be opening if you weren't meant to go through it.
I agree with you. I like flying without a net personally, so I think that's really what it boils down to. You can call it a leap of faith or a lot of other things. It's true. When the door opens for you and you sit there and hem and haw and you're like, oh, I don't know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just jump. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's me. That's my design.
No, but it works. I remember I used to do lead meditations. I did them for decades. And when I started out doing them, I would channel it, I'd write it out, and then I would take it to the meditation and read it. And often I would, veer off the script and stuff like that. But and I can remember after doing it for maybe a year or so and being very successful with it, I got to where I was going to do the meditation, and I opened the notebook, and the pages were all blank. And they hadn't been when I put it in there, because I read through it and I put it in, and when I got inside, I realized there's no way I can go home and print this out again. I'm going to have to cancel the meditation. And somebody, there were like 70 people there. And a friend of mine said, why are you sweating? And I said, well, here's the meditation. And there were the blank pages. And she said, where'd it go? And I said, I don't know. And I said, I guarantee you the printer had ink in it because I read it in the notebook. And she said, well, you channeled it, right? And I said, well, yeah. And she said, so channel it again. And from that moment on, I never wrote another meditation down. I just trusted the words would be there, and they were always there. I opened my mouth, and something beautiful came out. It was just amazing. And, it was kind of like, it's time. We've taken your safety net away. You can always make it a quickie. But it was I didn't trust myself to be able to do it. I had to have that safety net. But after a year's time, I didn't need the net there anymore. And it was, it was sort of like and from that moment on, I truly found that if I was in a situation where I was going to have to speak spiritually, I absolutely have no script. What is meant to happen happens. I just trust that I will say the most appropriate thing for the moment. And if that ever fails me, then I know it's time to stop. It's time to go in another direction.
I don't think it ever will. I call it cosmically organic. I like that. So,
Yeah.
you don't have to script everything. I understand scripts as a guide. We all used to do those. I mean, in ritual and this, that, and the other. But it is nice to just kind of wing it in a sense of just streaming consciousness and allowing the energy to come through. That's how we write books. So it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just get out there and put the energy out there, and it shows up. It is what it is.
Okay, you've written a ton of books. Well,
Not a ton, but I'm working on it.
4 or 5? So when you sit down,
I don't know. I still lost track. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when you sit down to write one, do you know what you're going to write, or do you just trust it's going to flow?
Well, I would say that some of them, I know the topic. I know what I want to talk about. So what I'll do is I'll create chapters of topics and subjects I'm interested in, and then I just stream the data. For the other books, for the ones on our covert technology, I actually had the information, in the sense of how to interpret it. So, yeah, it's just a matter of just having the gnosis and then just writing it down. So there's not any real prep work on that level. So I guess it's organically cosmic. I guess you can call it that, the way it comes out.
Yeah.
It's beyond channeling, in a sense.
Well, yeah, because I've read all your books, I'm pretty sure.
I have a few coming out soon,
and
if I can get them published.
Really?
Go ahead.
Now, do you self-publish, or are they published by a publisher?
I have an editor. No, I actually self-publish. I have Night Vision. It's actually mine, Night Vision Press, but I publish myself. I do have an editor that helps me out. And then, I'm almost done with the one on the time traveling, which is the one I'm working on, which is just about wrapped up. So that will be available soon. I'll let you know when that comes out, though.
Well, I blatantly steal one of your books, the transformational one.
You're the only one who has permission to do that. NASA just stole my title. I was working on the Orion Gateway project, and they just now are talking about a project called Orion and then Gateway, which is connected to the moon. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, it wasn't an accident, okay? I've been talking about this for years now.
Oh, yeah.
And I just noticed that. I understand they have Orion as in a time capsule wannabe, space, whatever you want to call it, space capsule, but now they're putting the Gateway connected. And the Orion Gateway project I've been talking about for years. And I've been actually talking about it through some of the presentations I've done, so I thought it was interesting.
Well, it's really fascinating because that's the way I go, and just lately I've got myself 5 titles all down. I know what I want to do, and it's a matter of saying, okay, then I'm going to do this. This is, and my goal is to get all 5 of them done within the next 2 years.
Oh, you can do that easy.
Oh yeah.
Get cracking, man.
And
but you will.
Well, I have Whispers of Spiritual Wisdom that's out there, but it's got to be republished because the patentation is it got screwed up, and I don't know how to fix it. So I'll just probably create another publishing company and go that way. But I feel especially with your books, because there's such a flow to them that it's unmistakable. And what I love is you haven't created 700-page books. They're a good, reasonable length, and you get the information out there, and I think it's profound. I have loved every book that you've written, especially the children's book. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Aside from the book that I steal, the children's book is really my favorite.
I love that one too.
No,
I still want it in animation. I thought it'd be so cute in animation,
Oh,
really
it'd be
cute.
darling. The illustrations in it are beautiful. Whoever did those illustrations was a master.
Yeah, she did a great job. That was Author House Books. That was the first publishing company I actually worked with. They're self-publishing too. So yeah, it was a long time ago. I think it's Susan Shore was her name. I have to double check.
But I think I really, the message I want to get out there tonight is understand that yes, these are end times, but that's a good thing because there are new times coming, and
right.
it people think it's the end of the world, and it's not.
No, it's the end of a cycle, basically.
Oh, definitely. If you pay attention to Philip Lindsay, who's an astrologer, he's written an amazing book, and it's a big, thick book, and it's not cheap. but it goes to the different ages of evolution, and it Golden Age, Silver, Tin, and then Aryan, and how we have cycled through those four for millions of years. And at the end of every Aryan race, there's usually, that's not the Aryan race of Hitler. It's that the very basic, lowest level of spiritual evolution and highest level of materialistic evolution. And as we cross from that into another golden age, there's usually a catastrophic, something catastrophic happens to the earth, and the population is lowered dramatically, and then humanity goes back to kind of the basics, and then at some point wise elders from another dimension come in and give us the tools to start to become great again, and we do become great, and then we devolve into the Aryan race yet again, but we're always spiraling through history that way. So, we are in, I think we've got 17,000 years before we're really out of this Aryan level that we're on right now, but we are in a transition change stage where some of the next golden age is seeping through, so that there is the last little bit of each age filters into the next age. So there's an amazing overlap of the philosophies and things like that, and we're seeing that today. We're seeing a lot of the heavy-duty spiritual stuff being present here, yet not always touched into, utilized, or enacted upon. And as we move forward again, I mean, if anybody wants a great book to read, it's Philip Lindsay's big book. I mean, it's heavy-duty book with lots and lots of illustrations, lots and lots of explanations as to the levels of awareness and stuff like that go on, and how we're sent back to square one, and yet every time we're sent back to square one, it's a higher square one than the previous level, so that we are constantly growing, which is a good thing to know. But I can feel that. I can see it. I can almost taste it. That there are moments when there's such a richness in the air, energetically, that you kind of want to just grab onto it and ride it till it stops to rest. And sometimes you can do that.
Oh yeah.
But when you look at the
absolutely.
world,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to cut you off. I was just
No, that's all right.
No big deal. I forget where I was going.
But let me know when you get there.
Yeah.
It's just it's fascinating, and I think energetically people, I kind of would love them to become more sensitive to what's going on around them energetically. I mean, if you just stand still and sort of feel the energy that's going on around you and tapping into it and blending with it, you get such a richness of understanding the environment you're in and the place you're in. And being here in Nashville, I'm right outside of Nashville. I'm not in the center of Nashville, thank God. I'm in the country. And, if I go out into the fields and I stand still, I feel wonderful energy. If you go into the center of Nashville, it's very reminiscent of what Las Vegas is like. On the weekends they close the main street. People are walking in the streets with their drinks, and they're going bar to bar to bar to bar. And it's a whole nother kind of energy, but it grates on you. It's the most amazing thing I have ever seen. And everybody's happy and celebrating, and, there are tour buses going through, and then there's one that I think is fascinating. It's a tractor that's pulling a hot tub, and the people are in the hot tub drinking and singing and, the whole thing. So it's really a crazy time, and it kind of reminds you of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh. Well, at least they're partying in a good way, not just having partying. Fights and this, that, and the other. So that's always good.
No, it's all parties. And so, I just, when my sister was here to visit, my son drove us down into Nashville, and it was like, oh my goodness, this energy is just, it's not my kind of energy. I'm not saying it was bad energy. It just wasn't my kind of energy. And when I got back home, it was like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. I mean, there are deer in the field. I have a resident now, groundhog, that comes and taps on my window and says, I'm out of water. Please give me more. Literally, it knocks on the window. And it's like a 40-pound groundhog. It's just huge.
Oh, how adorable. That's too cute.
We call him Harry. We have a skunk, obviously stinky, but deer wander around here on a pretty regular basis, and I'm seeing more wildlife here than I saw when I was in the woods in Connecticut, which is really phenomenal. So, but it's to taste the energy, to feel the energy, to become one with the energy, and you can do it by playing with your hands and feeling the energy, between your hands and creating balls of energy. There's so many things you can do. The energy is real and it's palpable, and you can utilize it if you just train yourself a little bit with it. And as you said, a teacher, an energy teacher is a good idea, and Reiki energy is a good place to start if you have never done energy work. Tai Chi, Qigong,
or even
all
Tai
of
Chi or
those are.
Qigong. I like those. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, they're great. I have vertigo, so I fall over easily. So, I had a friend who had a class, and I got kicked out of the class because I kept falling over and taking people down with me. So, it just destroyed. Yeah. I would get to one place and I would just clonk over. Some of the positions were difficult for me, but. But, and Tai Chi, absolutely, if you have a good teacher, the very first time you do it, you will feel the energy running. And once you have felt energy running in your body, you know what it is, and you know what you're going for, and you can recreate it. You can once you felt it, you'll never forget it, and then you'll know where you can click in and use that energy. It's amazing.
It is.
And
people
it helps
doctors
you
have quite a bit.
Oh yeah. And the cool thing is that you can use it to diffuse energy. You can use it to smooth out energy. You can use it to increase energy. You can use it to moderate energy. There's so many things you can do with it once you have a handle on how to utilize your own personal energy. It's really quite amazing. So definitely a good way to go, a good direction to go in these times of change, because the energy, it flows through your body. We are electromagnetic beings, and the more you can intensify it, the more you can tap into spiritual energy. It then transforms into consciousness and understanding and philosophical stuff, which is so exciting. And it changes your life. There's no doubt about it. And the term I use often with it is, and it's the best description I've heard, well, that I've created anyhow, is that it takes life from black and white to technicolor.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, very true.
So that it's
see with that multidimensional side.
Yeah. Yeah, then you get into the different dimensions, and then life shifts dramatically. But let's keep them on Earth for a while here, and because it's important. These are, absolutely, these are end times, but every day is end time. So it's a time of change and transition. It's not a time of ending, and I think that's what people have to understand. Because you've got that poor man in Times Square that the end is near. He's had that placard on him for at least the last 50 years, if not longer.
Makes you wonder if they just don't want it for their own demise, like they're willing it almost because they want to leave this world. For them, that's their way of getting out.
Yeah.
Just my observation.
I have seen that. I have seen a man with that sign on him for as long as I can remember. The end is near, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Every time the sun goes down, it's an ending, and every time the sun comes up, it's a beginning, and that happens on a pretty regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end for us personally. However, our perception of our reality should be changing, should be evolving, should be growing and expanding. And if you're holding on to the past, you don't have room for the future.
Yep. Very
So
true.
I mean, and I'm not saying let go of everything. I'm saying, take stock. What is it? Can you declutter? When I moved, I decluttered. I left a lot of my baggage back in Connecticut because I don't need it. Do I still have baggage? Yeah, I'm down to an overnight bag, but I still have baggage. And I guess
that's really good.
I left truckloads of stuff there, and I have to honestly say I have not missed not one single thing that I left behind.
Yeah, I believe it.
And and the thing is, if you can do that with and I would suggest to people who are new to this that you start with decluttering your life and what you've got around you. And once you've gotten rid of the stuff that you don't need anymore, I mean, there are food banks that could use the food that that is close to expiration that you're not going to eat. There's Goodwill, there's the Wounded Veterans, there's tons. I mean, there are plenty of places that really could take stuff that that are weighting you down, and they can benefit people. And once you have decluttered physically your life, then you take a look at yourself emotionally. What things am I carrying that no longer have reference to my life? When my mother passed away, my sister, who was a shaman, a Peruvian shaman anyhow, she brought her mesa and she put her mesa out on the bed. And this was not the day after. This was many months after. She said, "You and I haven't been really close friends or anything." And she said, "I want to do a ceremony with you that's letting go of things from the past that have been bothering us, that we've been carrying. And we're going to pass this stone back and forth, forgiving and letting go until we're all done." And I said, "Okay, that sounds like a good plan. I will commit to this totally." And when I said it, I half meant it. But when I was done, I totally meant it. And the very first thing she forgave me for was cutting her pigtail off when she was 3 years old.
Wow.
And she said, I said, "You've been carrying that this long?" She said, "Don't make jokes." And I said, "Okay, let it go." And it got to the point where she handed me the stone, and I said, "I forgive you for making this a longer process than it needed to be made." And she said, "We're done." but it was a wonderful ceremony. It was a wonderful practice, and if you enter into it, sincerely forgiving, it lightens your load tremendously. And are we best friends? No, but we talk every day just about. So there is a connection there from the time my mother died. So you work on the emotionalities in any way that is appropriate for you. You make your own ceremony, or you just make a list of the things that you want to resolve and work on letting go on them, whether you're meditating on them, whether you're writing them on paper and burning the paper, whether you're saging them, whatever floats your boat. Do it and start letting go of the things that you've been carrying. And quite often, you're carrying stuff that has to do with someone who has passed over, and there's no way that you can, resolve that with that person, but you can try depending on how sensitive you are. But work on letting it go. Work on understanding what it taught you and let go of whatever pain it caused you because you have a valuable lesson that you've learned. So that this is a good time. I mean, these next 2 years for sure of decluttering and letting go and allowing yourself to stretch into a greater sense of understanding of the spiritual reality that you carry within. Because that's where the gold is. That's where the good stuff is. That's where the richness is. That's where the joy is. And that's where the laughter is. And I think so many people who are intent on being spiritually evolved many have forgotten the fact that laughter is part of this process.
Yeah, definitely. Very healing.
Oh my goodness,
some humor
yes.
here and there.
And
very helpful.
Well, when you consider that sometimes we put ourselves through situations that are just so laughable it's unbelievable, and you can't believe you've done it to yourself, but there we are. And it's like, okay, I got the message. And get in touch with that spirit within. Get in touch with that aspect of yourself that is eternal and immortal. And you can even get into a dialogue with them if you want to. And just don't delude yourself and don't let your ego become that. Quite often we have tools that we use that become crutches, which are not a good thing. I had a client once who had a pendulum. She called him Penji, and he slept under her. He was always under her pillow. And she checked everything out with the pendulum before she did it. I saw her one day at the Hallmark store swinging the pendulum over cards. Is this a good card for so-and-so? Is this a good card for so-and-so? And it was like...
Oh, jeez.
I said, I think you're leaning a little heavily here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. You're the power. You're the gnosis. You're the divining rod. But I get it. I know a lot of people who like to use their little toys and props. But part of being the master of that is to be able to do that without all the extras. I mean, interrupt you.
Sometimes, no, that's okay. And sometimes the extras are fun. I mean, there's,
Well, I'm a sucker for nice pendulums, let me tell you. If they're pretty and they have pretty little crystals on the end, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, they're pretty. But
right. That's it.
And they do communicate with you, but only to a degree. And then there's the 3-penny way of asking a yes and no question that's really kind of fun, too. Are you familiar with that?
Is that where you flip a penny? How
no,
do you do
take 3 pennies.
I've not heard of that.
Okay. You take 3 pennies, and you put them in your hand, and you ask your question while you're shaking them around in your hand, and you let them go, and faces up are a yes, and tails up are a no.
Oh, how cool. I've never used that before. That sounds like fun.
It is. It is. And it's cheap, and you don't have to buy a pendulum. But yeah, the 3-penny toss has been a favorite of mine for a long time. It's sort of like, you kind of want to check with yourself to see if your ego is driving you in one direction or if it's your spirit, and sometimes it's hard to tell. And those, and then of course Benjamin Franklin's words of wisdom, "When in doubt, don't," come in hand here. And if there's a doubt, if there's a question, sit back and wait. But the 3-penny tosses has been a favorite of mine for a while. It just kind of is, okay, there's an answer.
I like it.
Go with it.
It reminds me of the pennies in the fountain too. For some reason, I don't know if people still do that. I used to love throwing pennies in the fountain.
With wishes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of fun. I don't see any fountains anymore to do that. I don't even know if that even happens anymore. So
I think that it's the Trevi Fountain in Italy that was famous for that. I think if you threw a coin over your shoulder and it landed in the fountain, you would return someday, and they expanded it to be all sorts of other things as well. I think having putting your wishes out there is a good idea. sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not so good, but you always, if you put your wishes out there, you always get an answer, and quite often it's not what you expect or want, but and if it's not what you expect or want, it probably has greater wisdom in it than a yes or no. And I have found that situations often are there to teach you something about yourself, and so often people, especially in relationships, will think, well, this is their message, it's not mine. But the reality is, it always is yours. And yeah, the other person may have a lesson they're learning too, but I don't think we're ever put through any kind of a situation or a challenge or a lesson that there isn't absolute meaning for us in our lives, and how we can apply ourselves to our lives. And always, 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 for me, it has always been a positive message. It's never been a negative message, And you can't get off with, oh, the message is never to do this or trust somebody like that again. That's not the message. The message is, was I discerning? Did I pay attention to, did I pay attention to the synchronicities that the universe was sending me? And here's where I get to journaling with people. It's sort of like if you journal down your synchronicities, your coincidences, they tell you something. There's a message there for you if you pay attention and you work with it. And the cool thing is that we're always constantly getting messages in life. And it's sort of like we don't always pay attention to them. We don't always understand that this synchronicity had a lesson in it that was important for us to learn. And I think that's, it's too bad that we aren't that discerning, that we don't pay attention to those things. I quite often will say, well, that was a coincidence, and then we'll move on. But the reality is, what did that coincidence mean, and what did that bring me in this life, and all sorts of stuff like that. I had James Tabor on the show, and the first two times, I've had him on the show a number of times, but the first two attempts that we've made to get his show on the air failed, both last times. And, on the third try, we actually had the show. And his material is wonderful, and it's great material, and he's an amazing, amazing author. And, the second time we had the two misses, and then we got the show going. It was like, okay, so why? The first time it happened, the first accident we had or whatever enabled me to read his PhD dissertation, so that by the time we actually did the show, I had much more background information on him, so that always it allowed me to be more fully prepared. And so now we kind of figure, if I was going to have him on again, I'd book him for 3 different nights, knowing that the first two are probably going to screw up.
Funny. But you were more prepared for it, so there you go. Need the extra time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's always, there's always a positive. Always a positive.
Right, I agree. It's not like, oh, it's not meant to be. I hate that whole thing when people say that. Oh, if it didn't work out, that it's not meant to be. I don't believe that at all. I think things happen, but, yeah.
I think sometimes the time isn't right yet. I don't think it's not meant to be, and there have been a couple times where something got in the way of the show happening, and I was prepared, but I didn't really like the material I had read, and I didn't really want to do it. So
you put your own block in there. That's funny.
Yeah, those things do happen. But when it comes absolutely. When it comes to the thought, I want to go back to EndTimes, because people are talking end times, and in their end times they're inferring the Earth's going to blow up and we're going to go on to the next whatever, and I don't believe that's what end times means. I don't believe that there's going to be a nuclear holocaust. I do, however, believe that there are major changes coming globally for us, and some of them have to do with natural events. I've sworn for years that the New Madrid fault line is going to erupt, so I moved right next door to it. So when it happens, I'll notice.
You're stabilizing it. We know you're stabilizing it.
Well, I either that or I'll have waterfront property. I'm not sure which. But
win-win both ways, right?
I do. My property value goes up. There's a culvert right behind my condo, and every time it really pours rain, I have waterfront property. It only lasts for about a day, though. The water goes down. But it's sort of like when you look to the future. I see major confrontations happening. I see states changing their boundary lines, some blending together, some splitting apart. I see the country shifting and changing as far as borders go. Borders are going to kind of change, I think, in the next 2 years for sure. And I do see these natural events happening, and I feel major earthquakes more than volcanic eruptions. But it does feel as though the next 2 years are going to, and also greater increase in hurricanes and typhoons and stuff like that, half of which I feel are going to be due to our intervention with HAARP. I don't think it's all going to be natural, but I do feel that there are going to be some pretty heavy-duty hurricane, tornado, whatevers over the next 2 years. I mean, I stopped writing my predictions for the future because they seemed to be full of dire stuff, and it was like, no, I'm not putting that out there. I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to write it down. I am foreseeing that most probably we're going to also see more riots this summer than were expected. I'm not sure over what, to be honest with you, but I do see.
Well, it doesn't matter
upheaval.
what it is now because look, yeah, they're definitely finding reasons to riot. Let's put it that way. So there's all kinds of things going on. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Go ahead.
But it's just, I think that people have to understand that if you even look at these groups of people that are quote unquote rioting, that I mean, in the forefront, I saw it the other night, and I don't know if it was in Washington or New York, but in the very forefront were the black umbrellas with the people all dressed in black, and that's paid rioters. That's not rioters that are really just rioting because they're frustrated and angry and stuff like that. And it felt like it didn't erupt like they wanted it to, so they failed. Thank gosh. But I do think as we get into the deeper part of the summer that there are going to be riots, and I don't know if it's because of food shortage. I don't know the cause of them. I just know I see some cities, some towns in flames. Not totally destroyed, but certainly what one could call rioting, like we had, I don't know, in 2020 or whatever. Whenever
volatile.
Yeah.
I think people's energetics are volatile. Once again, it also synchronizes with the fact that they're not doing any spiritual work. They're not grounded. They're not spiritually awake into a level of balance, body, mind, and spirit, which enables them to become more violent, more hostile. They're entity-driven versus spiritually driven. So there is a conflict there. There's an enemy within, kind of activating, in my opinion. So that's what I'm looking at, too. If they'd be more balanced in spirit, I don't think they'd be out there causing all the problems they're causing. So once again, but it's volatile. It's like anything will piss them off. But you talked about the HARP thing, and I think HARP is kind of outdated in the sense that we have a weaponized biodome to some degree with aerial warfare that goes on above our heads. So yeah, I think that everything is primed for that kind of volatile energetic, whether it's through brainwave manipulation or even some of the things that are happening with weather patterns and how they becoming weaponized to the point where some people are having more drought-related issues versus productivity. The winds are crazy. I don't know about you, but we've had some strange winds. And they're abnormal. They're not spirits being pissed off. It's not a spiritual wind. It's something way different, and I've noticed that quite a bit. So all of that stuff is factored in. I don't know if you've probably looked at Yellowstone, and I thought that was interesting how they had the big flood versus something where it would have been something other than that, like volcanic activity. So that was kind of interesting too.
Well, it's a giant volcano. It's a not giant. What do they call it? It's a
caldera.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
And,
the caldera. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
But with the flooding, my fear when you see the flooding in Yellowstone, that water has to go someplace, and it's going to go underground, and it's going to hit the magma.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So, and we found that a number of years ago, the Mississippi was draining into a fault line of some sort, and I thought for sure that was going to, trigger an earthquake, but it didn't. I think that nature is getting to a point, and we have seasons of horrific weather patterns and changes and things like that, and I think we're coming into one where we're going to see a lot of that. I know we've already had a couple of tornado warnings here, and I actually am more prepared for a tornado warning than ever before. So, when we get them, they actually do touch down. Never got them in on the East Coast when I was there, but here in Tennessee, they do touch down, and they do carve amazing pathways. So, but I look at the trees around me, and they're all a couple hundred years old, which would say that I'm not exactly in a pathway of one, so that while they may touch down within a mile of my place, I don't think they're going to touch down here. I feel very safe and protected.
Yeah, I think you are. Absolutely.
But it's another case of we're in the middle of a drought, and we haven't had any rain for almost a month, and it doesn't. You
can bring that over there. Come on, I know you can bring some in.
Crank in some water. Yeah, no, the temperatures have been over 100. 105, 110.
Wow. Ugh. Do you like that?
No,
I don't do good in weather like that.
No, I don't either. This is an allergy-rich area, and I have horrible allergies, so I'm inside, but that's okay. I have a nice, large condo, and all of my work and connections and everything have to do, with inside work, so I'm just fine.
That's good.
But there are lots of people that aren't, and we have, and it's interesting. When I was in California, I remember driving around with my son, and the people were on, living in tents, and they were on the street corners, and they were, at major intersections. I'll work for food, or, they just, it's awful, and we have them here too, so that if, how do you say no to somebody who's a veteran and disabled? And, it's awful.
It is. We have it also. It's not isolated to one state. Unfortunately, we have a lot of homelessness in tent cities right now.
And it's
terrible.
Frightening. But, they had it in New York. I'd never seen that, the tent cities like that. And the tent cities in California and San Francisco and L.A. But New York City is gone as far as I'm concerned. I see pictures of it, and there's no longer the dynamic in New York City that once there was. So that everything is changing. Everything is changing. Everything is shifting. And it's not the end, it's the change. And I think that they should change the title or something. It's a transition time. Call it transition time
Right.
because we're going from old to new. But don't call it end because that's going to scare people and they're going to, flip out and
Well, that's the whole idea, though. I mean, the religious indoctrination programming is about, it's the end times, you must repent, and, that get good with God, and you know what I mean. No offense to anybody,
Yeah.
but that's what it's about, putting the fear in them through end times. It's like, finite, everything done, that kind of thing. That's the way I see it anyway.
But I'm finding, it's really interesting. There's an app that is, I think, in every town, city, whatever. It's called Nextdoor. Are you familiar with it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I know it. Mm-hmm.
And
I stay close on it, though.
Well, I watch it, and every now and then there was one lady that wrote in a while back, and she said, I'm a single parent with 3 children in school. I have no food. I have no food for my children. I need help. And the response she got was, I sent a huge basket of food over. I was not the only one. People put her in touch with churches that have, food for people who are, the minute she put that up there, people rushed to help. And
that's nice.
It was just, and there are people that say, hi, I need a cleaning lady and stuff like that, and I use it for that kind of stuff too. But it's a way of keeping you into your community, which is a really phenomenal way to go. And if people need help, people can offer it, and it's whoever invented it did a great job because I've answered a couple of the things, and I've always found that the people that have asked for help truly didn't need it, and it was a great way to be able, instead of just dropping money in a can someplace, it was a great way of being able to physically go and help a neighbor, and and continue on with it. So, there are lots of organizations like that really are doing amazing work for people, and I think let's pay attention to those, the Tunnels to Towers, the Wounded Veterans, I don't know, ASPCA for sure. There are places that are doing magnificent work, but you have to research them. And if you don't have money to give, which is, I'm sure, appreciated, but and again, back to my give your time, because volunteering even a little bit here and a little bit there puts it. Do it. It's almost selfish, but do it because it makes you feel better. And by making you feel better, then of course your attitude changes, your philosophy changes, and you're a better partner, you're a better sister, you're a better mother. If you have that kind of flow of energy going on, and you don't do it because you have to, you do it because you want to. So there's
a big difference.
But end times, I don't think so. Humanity's been around for at least 6,000 years, if longer, and we haven't reached a place where we're ready to transition, not all of us anyhow, to the next phase. But it's interesting because I'm seeing people who are moving forward and upward, and then people who are, I'll be back because I have to. But you see a number of people that you're very well aware that they are transitioning to a higher level, a higher dimension, a higher energetic, and it's really amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting timeline, no doubt about it.
Oh, it's a fascinating timeline, and when you think that we all have, yes, everything is more expensive. Yes, there are challenges going on all over the place. Yes, at the same time, this is a time where energy is more available to us. So learn how to use the energy that's out there. Learn how to draw it in. Learn how to apply it to your life, and when you do that, then you shift your focus to what can I do for me that's going to help me get to be a better person and help my family too. So it's all good. I think it's the kind of time that it's great to be here when this kind of shift takes place because you can see it happening. When you're in the middle of if you're in the middle of an age or something, then your awareness isn't as sharp as it is when everything appears to be falling apart. But people have to realize in order to build new, you have to tear down old.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a time tunnel to some degree. But it is you see the crest of the wave coming. I do anyway.
Oh, yeah. But, your books are so helpful for people, too. I mean, your books are phenomenal in helping people to learn how to work with themselves and understand, processes, and the transformation book especially. But the other ones are good, too. And I haven't stolen the others yet, but I'll probably get around to it.
It's a good reminder for people. Something else. It's like a library, just
that was your
to get little
book,
tidbits of data that Transmutation Through Ascension. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the very first book I wrote. Yeah. It's the baby. It's my baby book.
Yeah. Well, it's a great start. It's a foundational book for sure.
I like it.
And there's also another book out there. I don't know who wrote it, but it's called A Secret Psychic, which is also a good book. It gives lots of suggestions. It gives lots of beginning type. I mean, this is for beginners. This is for people who just want to get into understanding their own sensitivity to themselves. This is not so much a spiritual book as it is becoming aware of the energy and stuff like that. But it's a wonderful handbook, and I don't normally read those kind of books, and I normally don't interview those people, but I did read that book, and it's one I would recommend. Usually, if it has psychic in the title, I stay away from it. But this is understanding how you can understand how you're becoming more sensitive to your environment and how you can develop it and how you can utilize it consciously and gently and wisely. So it was interesting. But your transformation book, now, but for anybody on a spiritual pathway, that's the book to go to.
Well, thank you. It's a nice little 101 or two. Yeah.
It is. And you work so with the dimensions that I think is fascinating. And when we talk about the different dimensions and the different areas and the different ways we can time travel and stuff like that, there's such exciting material out there. You don't have to sign up to go to the moon. You can do it from your own bedroom if you want to.
Exactly.
And
not through imagination. It's way beyond that.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, the time travel and remote viewing and stuff like that are also aspects of understanding our spirituality and utilizing our energy in different ways, shapes, and forms. And again, we have, it's funny. We are. Our human bodies are an avatar for a spirit to ride in. And it's kind of like we've bought the most expensive car on the lot, but we didn't get the owner's manual that went with it. And most of us, me especially, when I got a new car, the things I wanted to know first was, where are the windshield wipers and where are the headlights, and I don't care about all the other stuff. And but windshield wipers and headlights, important.
I go for rental cars, by the way.
Well, no, that's what I've got. It's a rental for 3 years, and it was kind of like I haven't. Now there are all sorts of buttons and switches all over the place. I haven't learned to use them. And that's how our spirits often are with our physical bodies. They got the eyes to work, the ears to work, the brain to work, the mouth to work. But as far as the energy work and stuff like that, those tools are there. and learning how to utilize things by trial and failure, if nothing else, is a very smart thing to do, because it does give you, every tool you have in your tool belt gives you the ability to address issues within your physical reality to a higher degree of insight and inspiration and spirituality. And to not utilize those tools is to, in many ways, cut one of your arms off.
Yeah, definitely. The vehicle runs a lot better when you power up.
Yeah. Well, it does. And I think the other thing is, pay attention to the fuel that you put into your body. Because if you're not functioning physically, then you're again not utilizing the vehicle appropriately, and take care of the vehicle. So that it's an adventure for sure. It's really exciting as all get out. But when you stop to think about it, there is no owner's manual on purpose. I guess that's we're meant to search for what we need when we need it. Some people don't need it. Some people come in and they've got it all. They're the indigo children for one. My gosh, their level of awareness is profound. But they have to be guided too. So, have you had any contact with indigo children at all?
No. Actually, I'm a little skeptical of some of them because of the types of technology I've been interfaced with, so I kind of wonder how many of them have been compromised through the technology. So some people who might say they're so-called indigos may not be. They may just be a cloned replication of a program that has been interfaced and downloaded into and onto their DNA. That can happen, genetic manipulation. Not everybody, but I'm kind of jaded on that level. But I'm sure there are some divine children out there who have the cosmic bloodlines. But yeah, I think that in today's age, you have to look at on various levels of how much manipulation's been going on, especially with artificial intelligence, and take a good look at that. I know there are a lot of people that I've interviewed, and you probably have too. I forget the one lady who's a front runner for, regressing children and saying they're all indigos and starseeds, and I don't know if that's truly the case, but I think everybody is psychic, and I think all children and adults have their awareness of consciousness and awareness of lifetimes on and off planet, and if they are able to access that, that's even better. So I look at everything,
I agree.
All angles.
Well, with the manipulation of consciousness, I mean, that is definitely, I firmly believe, can't prove it, but firmly believe that I did the Ancestry and I did the 23andMe because I was fascinated with it. But after I did it, it felt like the government or governments were collecting DNA for a purpose, and I don't know what it was, and I have a feeling it was nefarious. But and then when COVID came out and they were testing people, they were doing it with a cheek swab or whatever, and again, DNA, so that there is a DNA bank, and I don't know what they're looking for, but I suspect they are looking for certain, not so much blood types as they're looking for certain DNA structures to target in some way, shape, or form.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, I think it's all part of the genome manipulation and so far the DNA sequencing. Yeah, and that's part of it. There's been a lot of talk about that going on with what they're trying to do right now, even with some of these injections. So you have to look at it on a different scale. But the idea behind manipulating the DNA sequencing is interesting because that's kind of like the God particle. So if they're going after that, that means they're trying to rewrite something connected and insert a specific program to manipulate the evolution of beings here. And I wouldn't say it's for the better. I think it's not an upgrade when it comes down to like transhumanism or something. I think it's more about deforming it. So that's just my own take. I hope that's not the case.
No.
Yeah, I'm always, like I said, I'm always skeptical about this, because these people are not necessarily good people. So.
Well, no, and I totally agree. And when I realized what it was, I probably don't have whatever it is they're looking for, but it felt to me as though they're looking for a certain grouping of people. Don't know what what within that group they're looking for, but they are breaking it down so small. They are analyzing the DNA to the point where it's ridiculous. So they're looking for something. And they're giving us information about, a susceptibility to this or a susceptibility to that or whatever. But I think they're looking for something else. I just can't figure out what it is.
Yeah. Well,
and
I
here
find that
we
through our evolution. Oh, go ahead.
No. I don't understand. And if we are naturally evolving on some level to a certain degree and a certain point, why are the governments looking at our DNA searching for something? And it can't be good. It just can't be.
Well, if you look at, I don't know if you read my book, Alien Intelligence, but the whole idea behind that is that we're descendants of the visitors. We have the extraterrestrial bloodline. So that means that we're not from here. We're talking about our origins early on in the show, and you were talking about that, and that's true. So our origins are off planet, which means we get reactivated through the different space-time configurations, through frequency and consciousness. It's all part of ascension. So in my opinion, when they're looking at this, they're getting nosy about what we really are. I think they're trying to figure out what it is, what's standing out, what's the connection. But honestly, it has a lot to do with the space-time configuration you're in, the frequencies, and what Nikola Tesla has mentioned, to us, the modulation of waves and how that manipulates the DNA and changes the frequency band. So that's my take on it. And also, how miracles happen when you're fully engaged in your avatar design. So we can heal spontaneously, we can traverse the galactic highway, we can do all these magnificent things, which makes us kind of a threat to their agenda to some degree, in my opinion. So if you could just say, I'm going to phase shift and biolocate off planet, see ya, and you don't have any national security tracking you, and they can't get a hold of you, and they're that kind of thing. They want to control. In my opinion, I think it's all about control manipulation, and also perhaps manipulating the abilities we have so that they remain dormant instead of activated.
That makes sense.
That's just my take. I've seen what they're capable of, so.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that they're targeting a certain audience, and I'm not sure who or what that is. I do know that getting back to riots and things like that using the Havana headache.
Oh yeah. That was the one that was like the vertigo and that's a direct energy weapon, but it's a minor one. Yeah.
Well, and my thought was that they're looking for people who are more susceptible to being manipulated, electronically through sound waves that are set that our ears can't hear, but certain level of consciousness is, and it either incites to riot or incites to anger or incites to violence. Our government, with every new invention, the first question they ask is, how can we weaponize it? So,
unfortunate.
So, my thought is they're looking for a way to weaponize a part of us DNA-wise. And
well, the synthetic telepathy is really potent. I mean, I've been through that interface. But I was going to mention to you, I'm sure you've seen the movie Taken, the mini-series by Steven Spielberg, and that's a prime example of a little girl who's an extraterrestrial design who has a natural ability to interface with things, and they wanted the weaponization of her brain and in a sense of what she's capable of doing. I remember looking at that saying she doesn't need a helmet. That's how I was when I was interfaced with the tech. You don't need a helmet. It's a frequency interface. So I think that's what it's about in a sense of, and that we're all capable of this. It's not just one or two. In my opinion, I think that's the wiring of the avatar, but it's manipulating that ability to a point where they have control over what your thoughts are at some point, how you interface with reality, and also in inserting memories, whether they're real or not. That's a big concern of mine. It's like mind control. Are they inserting real data codes of information from the cosmos and spirituality, or is it manipulated data coming from them? And I think that's what this angle is. That Havana syndrome is very concerning to me. And I've talked about direct energy weapons because I know they deployed quite a few this past few years just for beta testing. So we'll see where it goes. But if people are getting agitated like molecules in a microwave, then you can tell that something's spiking their energy and their brainwave activity to volatile behavior. And to me, that's a huge hive influence through a signal. That's just my own perception.
Well, I know the last year, every full moon, I have incredible anxiety attacks.
Wow, you're still getting that?
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, this last one
interesting.
was a doozy. It was like a 2-day anxiety attack.
Really? Wow.
And I knew it was an anxiety attack. I wasn't I didn't take off for the hospital because I was having a heart attack or anything, but full moons absolutely trigger me into anxiety. And
wow,
I
that's
would
interesting.
I would truly like to, and this last one was a big one. So I don't know if I'm becoming more sensitive or if the signals are becoming stronger.
I think the signals are getting stronger, and also you're a water sign, right? You're Pisces. So that would be, the water and the moon, associated with the moon and lunar energies, especially full moons. Possibly, maybe there's a signal that's being hijacked that you might be tuning into that may not be very comfortable. That's just my own take. I don't know. But definitely there's something afoot there. I would pay attention to that.
Well, I think I'm going to, make an aluminum hat for the next full moon.
Not so crazy. Did you see signs? I mean, aluminum foil will get you a better signal, though. Be careful. Like the old days of the antenna, I would tell people, remember the TVs where you had the bunny ears and you put the foil on, and it's like, wow, if you need a better signal, just put the foil on there. I mean, do you remember that? Because I'm dating myself now.
I do, yes, I do remember that. But I'm thinking, I think this next full moon, whatever it is, I'm going to be more cognizant of it and see if I can utilize the energy for something other than an anxiety attack, because, that's ridiculous.
You know what you should do is scry it. See what you can see with the moon. Just look at it. I know you have that, psychic eye. So just look at it and see what comes in when you scry and say, look, what is this about? And just ask and see what comes in. I would do that. Control the field.
I think, I wasn't paying attention this time as to, the fact that it was a full moon. And happily my neighbor who is attached to me happens to be a nurse. So, I went over and said, well, am I dying? And she said, no, that's an anxiety attack. I said, that's what I thought. And, I didn't think anything of the fact that it was full moon. So I think I'm gonna chart when the next full moon is and pay attention to it and see if I can't use the energy to do something profound.
I agree with you 100%. Deflect whatever's happening there, but you are so hypersensitive to energy. Might be something that's going on that you're just dialed into subconsciously. But don't let it attach onto that field.
No. It was just so weird. And had I realized it was a full moon, I would have dealt with it much differently. I just wasn't paying attention.
I think some of us always get distracted.
Well, yeah, it's easy. A shiny object will carry my attention every time.
I was going to say. That's always a good sign,
though. Like that,
shiny objects are nice.
What is it, that cartoon where the dog talked and, he would be talking and suddenly we'd be squirrel. And, that's how I can be from time to time. So, no, I've got it charted so that the next full moon I'm going to pay very close attention to how I feel and what I do with that energy field. Because it seems to me that having access to that much excess energy, I mean, I could levitate maybe. It was really profound. It was, kind of like, okay, I mean, for me to suddenly say, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Right, you must be really dialed in.
I guess I was.
And that's for listeners, too. They might feel the same way.
Full moons have always made me more sensitive. A good time to get a reading from me was on a full moon type stuff. But this was so intense, it just blew me out of the water. And I've been in this field for a really long time, and that was so unusual for me to be knocked off my pins like that. But it was like, okay, I'm going to sleep this off. This is ridiculous. But I should have been journaling. I should have been writing. I should have been putting whatever was coming through down on paper. This is retrospect, of course, but should have been paying attention here, because that I should have used it. Now I have to wait a whole month for the next one. But
Well, it's not going to be
won't
that
be a
far
blood
off,
moon.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's another thing
No.
too. And a lot of people, they're doing some weird ceremonies. A lot of people do some real bad stuff around the full moons. Other people don't. They negate it too. I keep getting distress signal though, so maybe there's a distress signal associated with that, connected with the moon. Maybe there's something there. So who knows?
That could be.
Might be something very urgent you need to deal with. I'm not talking on this plane though.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. It's certainly going to be something that I take note of and work with because, you have that kind of energy. You might as well do some good with it. You might as well,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if I do a 12-hour straight writing binge or whatever, whatever it is, use it.
Right.
Don't lose it.
Absolutely. Well, just banish out anything that's non-productive and roll.
Yeah. Well, I plan on doing it.
Yeah.
So we're down to the last couple minutes here. Let's give them your information so they know where to find you.
Oh, I'm all over the place. But you can go to my website, nightshadowanomalydetectives.net. You can find me over on Hyperspace at KCOR on Friday nights at 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, and then Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturdays, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, and then, of course, here with the lovely Barbara DeLong with her network. And it's always a pleasure to connect with you. It's been too long. I know we've been in different space-time configurations, but it's nice to connect with you here. It's been a great show.
Absolutely. We normally try to do the last Sunday of the month. That's the intent. Doesn't always work that way, but we try to do it that way.
That's right. We're nebulous.
So
we make it work.
Hey, we're flexible. But
That's right.
yeah, no, and this will be up on YouTube shortly, and I so appreciate your taking the time once a month to just hash out philosophies and things like that.
Oh, it's my honor.
I think it's your turn to pick topic next time too.
Oh no, I'll have to come up with something. I'll have to text you behind the scenes. Maybe we should talk about psychic attacks. Maybe that's something to dial into.
Well, we can do that.
I don't know.
Oh, I have good stories on that. Yeah. You don't have to stick with Manly P. Hall. Just, a good topic that we can get our teeth into is fine and dandy with me. And we've certainly both been around the barn enough so that we can talk 2 hours on just about anything. So.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a great show, Barbara. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank
Wonderful
you.
network. You do a great job.
Thanks. It is, and Mark Eddy helps a tremendous amount too.
Yes, Mark.
He's
Hi,
my
Mark.
partner in crime.
He's awesome.
He is awesome, and he's probably the most genuine person I've ever met. So, but he is partially responsible for the success that the show is taking on as well. We're coming close to 2,000 subscribers, which is very exciting. So
very nice.
That's
good.
Yeah, and we have passed 500,000 views. So we are definitely Not that I'm a big number counter, but every now and then it's a good yardstick to see, have we grown and are we going in a good direction? And so far, so good. So I thank you. I thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom with us. And look forward to the end of July.
Me too. Absolutely. I'll be here. The bell's on.
Okay, I'll listen. Take care now, and good night.
You too. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Do check our website for when next some wisdom is going to be shared. And look forward to talking to you, seeing you. Stay well. Stay out of trouble. Stay cool. It's summer. And stay wise. Check out Solaris's website. Check out her Amazon site, too, because her books are fabulous. And, if I steal them, they got to be good. So have a great one. Good night, everybody.